they were covering an outbound campaign for Inari. It's a tool that uses AI to automatically categorize, dedupe, and generate insights from user feedback. So if you've been part of an early stage startup that's growing really fast, or just any startup really, you know that you get a bunch of feedback from your users, and those get logged somewhere, but it's usually a manual process to go through all of them. There's usually hundreds, if not thousands of them, and you have to go through each of them, kind of rank them on their importance, whether there's any duplicates, if they're of same category, right? So there's a bunch of work that can be automatically completed using AI, and that's where Inari comes in. It takes different sources of user feedback like Slack, your data warehouse, and Jira, Linear, everywhere else, consolidates them, and then runs through all the feedback and does all the heavy lifting for you, right? So it uses AI to analyze feedback at scale. Um, and so the angle that I thought would be interesting for Inari would be to go after sort of a legacy competitors, customers who rely on sort of an older product that doesn't leverage AI to the extent that Inari does, and the users are still left to do a lot of the manual work of processing the user feedback on their own. And so a big player in the space is called Canny. Or their website's canny.io. But if we go to a customer of Canny's, Kitbash 3D, and look at how the boards are laid out, there's a bunch of different categories of feedback, and users kind of log in and leave their feedback manually in there. So you can see these are all user generated, a whole bunch of them, right? And those get then picked by the product team, consolidated, and all of that, and then they get put into the roadmap. So, without further ado, we thought, what if we went after Canny's customers and said, hey, did you know that you can do all the processing of that user feedback automatically, right? That's the gist of the campaign. And so using AI, you can scale an outbound campaign that says something like this. Hey, Banks, that's one of the co-founders at Kitbash 3D. So I was on Kitbash 3D's Canny page and saw just shy of 300 feedbacks on there. Your users seem to really love your product. Given the big number, curious to hear how you manage your backlog. I ran a small sample of Kitbash 3D's feedbacks through an AI tool we built. Found that cargo rarely lets me sign in, and when it does, I get the 107 unknown download error. And cargo sign in button grayed out. Both mention login difficulties and could be deduped. Can I share the full analysis with you, Frank? And this is sort of a lengthy PS. I guess you can separate this out into the second email in the outbound sequence, but just to add to the fact that we did our research, we actually point out which two pieces of feedback we're referring to, like their title, as well as how many votes they received, and the link so that they can click into it and look at their own feedback if they wanted to, the recipient of this email, right? And we prioritize using trying to refer to feedback with the highest number of votes, because obviously there's a lot of interest from users to get this feature roadmapped. So how do we do this? Let's go back. So in order to get all the customers that are using Canny, I aggregated three different sources. The first one was Google search. And so Clay has a functionality where you can start with the Google search results. And so I typed in powered by Canny because I noticed that there's always this little footer at the bottom of any Canny powered boards, right? And so powered by Canny, when you search for it, the first few are from canny.io, which are not as relevant because it's the company itself. And then there's some feedback and review sites. But then pretty quickly you start seeing feedback.stackerhq.com, feedback.titan.email, features.app blog. Actually, that's not it. Okay, so we have a few more sort of these review sites. And then again, you start seeing feedback.manychat.com, roadmap.ordo.com, right? So you see a whole bunch of these, right? And so when you run this Google search, you can get a decent amount of these current users of Canny. Now, if you used something like serpapi.com, you'd be able to get a lot more. So I think with Clay, I got maybe like a few hundred, 200, 300 or something like that. There's a limit, but you can see that there's about 24,600 results. Not all of them are going to be relevant, but a lot of them are. And you can get a lot of that using an API tool like SERP API. So that's one. The second one was Built With. So Built With has websites using Canny. Again, here there's 45,000. Not all of them are relevant because some of them are not Canny boards, but they are just showing that they integrate with Canny. And so again, you have to do some sifting through this list. but again, a decent amount there. I think the free plan only gives you like 50, but still it's a decent amount to get started with. And then lastly, there's a site called Rapid DNS where you can look up any subdomain. So anything that has .canny.io at the end can be pulled here. So for example, futurehome.canny.io, Blockfolio, and this is a particular domain structure that Canny uses in their domains. So again, this is something that we can use to our advantage to get a list of all of Canny's customers. So across those three sources, we pull a sample of companies. We have the Canny page URL and then the company URL. So based on the company domain, we're able to enrich the company, then pull profiles of people who work at these companies that would fit our ideal customer profile. So co-founder, CEO, CTO, CPO, right? And then what we do is we built a custom scraper to go into each of these pages where the Canny board lives and pull relevant information. So if you look here, there's about 200 lines of code that I wrote here. Mostly it's working with Zenrows, which is a scraper API, and then getting that to work on a Cloudflare worker. But basically what it does is it does three things, I believe, right? So the first is it goes in and collects the number of feedbacks across all the boards. So 117, 89, 63, 31. This is so that we can add them all together and then throw them back at the customer, being like, there's hundreds, and to be more exact, there is 450 feedbacks on your board. The second one that we do is we go into the board with the highest number of feedbacks, and we first scroll down, get the scraper to keep scrolling. You can see that there's a lazy loading, so you try to get as many feedbacks as possible by getting the scraper to continue to scroll down. And then once it's done doing that, you collect these pieces of information. So the title, the little text snippet that you see here, and then the number of votes, right? And then we return that as a JSON object. So if we go back, you can see for any of these, you see all the boards, right? So here's a board named cargo feedback. There's 115 feedbacks. The second one, 87, and so forth. And then the board with the highest number of feedbacks was the first one, cargo feedback with 115. And so each of these is a quick link, how many votes it had, and the title of the feedback, and then a little text snippet here. Well, I forgot to mention, but there's also external links, which pulls any links that link out to a page outside of canny.io. And the reason for that is once we have that, it's usually referring back to the customer's domain, which then makes it easy for us to map it to a LinkedIn company profile and then get all the data that we need to be able to reach out to people there. Then what we do is we run all the feedbacks that we got from this one board with the highest number of feedbacks, and we actually run it through an AI prompt to say, can you go through all these feedbacks and tell me if any two feedbacks have a very similar feedback that they can be either deduped or put in the same category. Now, ideally, we could actually use Inari's product, like feed the feedbacks actually through Inari's engine to get a really good result. But here, just for this hypothetical walkthrough, I created a simple prompt that basically asked AI to do this in a lightweight way. So it goes through all the feedbacks, returns two pieces of feedback that the AI believes are either similar or should be in the same category or are duplicates and can be merged into one. And then I ask it to return all the relevant information about those feedbacks. So then again, we can use those pieces of information back in the email. So if we look, right, so this is the title and this is the detail, the text snippet that we have. And again, here's the title and then the detail, right? And then it has the rationale that we can just plug into the email that we see, which is right here. Where is it? Fourth line, right? So here's the first feedback, here's the second feedback, and then both mention this is dynamic here, login difficulties. And then based on AI's recommendation, whether it's dedupe or same category, right? This can be also dynamically generated. We say could be deduped, or we say could be put in the same category. And again, here, this structure is static. Both mention is same across all emails, but then you say security and unauthorized access prevention. So hopefully you found this useful. I think this was interesting in that you're leveraging, again, publicly available data that is hosted on your competitor's website and being able to use that to your advantage, because you're able to see exactly how many feedbacks are on there. And you know from experience that there's going to be it's going to be someone's work and a lot of work to go through those pieces of feedback manually and process them. And so you can exactly pinpoint sort of their pain point and say, hey, we have a solution that does all of this, right? So again, hopefully you found this useful. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments. Thanks.